Susan Garrett is like the gift that keeps on giving. Before I start this, and I'm not going to do the whole video, this is like a 23-minute video, I got some questions for Susan Garrett. In the last 20 years, after all the lies and all the bullshit and all the garbage being spewed out of trainers' mouth like yours, and you're not the only one, millions of dogs have died as a result of these friggin' dog trainers, behavioral euthanasia. And it's a group of people that can't even define the word behavior. You can't define the word behavior, can you? And I wouldn't fully expect you to. As a result of all this lies and garbage, millions of dog owners have had their lives destroyed. Let's get a show of hands. How many people have had their lives destroyed? How many people are living like a hostage in their own homes? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because of all the lies and the bullshit from dog training community at large. People like Susan Garrett. Okay? How many more lies do I need to expose before people can actually open up their eyes and understand you're being lied to? Let's get into what she says.
Hi, I'm Susan Garrett. Welcome to Shaped by Dog. And you could say, oh, it's the breed of dog. Like some breeds, they're just not made to be trained. They kind of like more...
Most breeds don't need to be trained, okay? Breeds are there specifically. Just about every breed of dog actually exists to serve a purpose, and most times that purpose is to chase. It's either a husky chasing the frickin' wind, dragging a sled, hunting dogs, herding dogs, whatever have you, but the problem is you're not allowed to chase today. That's what's missing today. Everybody's going, no, you can't chase that thing, and it's causing frustration, which is causing all kinds of behavioral issues.
Freedom. They're a little bit more feral of a dog. Or, other people say, oh, these dogs, they're so crazy for work. They get really, really high. And
so put them to work. Malinois, incredible dog, 2 dogs in 1. They are not couch potatoes. They need to work. They need to get out and chase something. There's analogies that you can use for these breeds. Get them out chasing a remote control car or a freaking drone. Get them chasing something. That's what they're bred to do. That's what they want to do. They want to do for you. But yet trainers are saying, you got to train your dog to do for you. The dog exists to be our tools. They want to do for you. That's what they exist for.
You really can't get through to them because they're just not thinking.
Yeah, they're just not thinking because they're not being put to work. They're not tired. They're not satisfied. Guess what? A purpose in life makes a calm dog a satisfied dog. But yeah, you know what? You need the dog amped up. When a dog is all amped up, they never get anywhere.
Well, today I'm going to share with you, it isn't necessarily the breed of dog. It isn't the trainer.
It is the fucking trainer. And we're going to get into this.
It isn't this dog just doesn't listen. There is one key thing that you may not be considering, and I'm going to help you with it today. It doesn't
I can't wait to hear this. What more garbage are you going to put on people's plate, Susan?
matter if you're a brand new trainer. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced world-class trainer. This thing is going to help everybody, and here it is. When you train a behavior, I don't care.
That's the problem. You cannot train a behavior as a response to an emotion. That's the reality. Dog trainers are supposed to train dogs for specific tasks, and those specific tasks are usually abnormal behaviors. And I'll get into that as we go through this.
If it's a sit, I don't care if it's something like high-level...
That's the problem. Dogs sit by default as a natural behavior. Where the abnormal behavior comes in is sitting on command or laying down on command. That's what trainers are supposed to be doing, teaching abnormal behaviors.
Search and rescue. I don't care if it's an agility behavior.
There you go, agility, abnormal behaviors. You see that set of poles? I've never seen a dog that looked at a set of poles and go, I'm going to weave through that. That's an abnormal behavior. They need to be trained to do it. You cannot train a dog for a behavior as a response to an emotion.
Whatever that behavior is, you are never just training the behavior. You are never just training. From the very first time you teach a puppy anything.
And there you go, right there, that's the very problem. Here she is with the treats and the puppy. Dog trainers want you to start off in a transactional relationship right from the very get-go. A relationship based on reward and punishment. This is absolute bullshit. This is what you call a toxic relationship. This is what you call a messed up relationship. This is what they want, because when you're in a toxic relationship with your dog, guess what? I don't trust my dog is the number one thing I hear. Here's the problem. What you want is a solid relationship based on mutual trust and respect, because that's what builds confidence in any relationship. If you don't trust, guess what? You don't have a relationship. You cannot respect or be confident in that which you don't trust. And dog trainers tell you all the time you don't need to trust your dog. They're breaking your relationship. And they're telling you to hire a trainer because you can't do it on your own. The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, you are the only one in this world that can change the fucked up relationship that they developed with your dog. You're the only one that can change the relationship into a mutual trust and respect basis.
You are never just training a behavior. You are also training an emotion.
Ding, 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 ding. There it is. There it is. What is an emotion, Susan? Would you care to, should I explain what an emotion is? Emotions are also your instincts that drive certain behaviors. An emotion called fear is an instinct that drives your reaction to fight and flight. And what is fight and flight? Is what dog trainers call aggression and reactivity. It's a hormonal response. When you suffer, your limbic system is the control center for all of your emotions, your instincts, which drive your behaviors. And it's the limbic system that controls all your behaviors. So when you experience fear, your limbic system sends a signal to your adrenal glands to increase the cortisol and adrenaline. That produces a fight or flight response in every animal. But yet trainers call that aggression and reactivity. Aggression and reactivity are not diagnosis at all. The very object of the science of behavior that you don't want people to know is discovering its causes. And dog trainers don't give a shit about causes. Dog training is a solution without understanding the cause. There's no diagnosis.
And I use the word training with quotes around it because it's not like you are saying this dog needs to select being happy right now. But my mentor, Bob Bailey, he used to always come around and say, Pavlov is always on your shoulder as a trainer.
That's one of the problems. Ivan Pavlov was not a dog trainer. Okay? Ivan Pavlov focused on classical conditioning. This is not operant conditioning. B.F. Skinner created operant conditioning and it's far different. You cannot put the two of them in the same boat.
Which means as you are selecting from one of your 4 quadrants.
There it is. There's the big lie. Okay? Susan Garrett is a bald-faced liar. How do dog trainers define dog training? Dog training is also known as operant conditioning. And how do dog trainers define operant conditioning? A method of behavioral modification using reward and punishment. Hence the quadrants, what they call positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment. They redefined operant conditioning to suit their own needs. They redefined positive reinforcement to suit their own needs. And they redefined negative reinforcement to suit their own needs. B.F. Skinner openly opposed punishment. Even Ivan Balabanov said this on a podcast. He will sit there and blame Skinner, but then contradict himself. He actually stated, and I quote, it wasn't even a moral issue for Skinner. He openly opposed punishment. So I'm going to ask Susan Garrett, if Skinner opposed punishment, then where did the punishment quadrants come from? We both know where they came from. It's from Conrad Most. Susan Garrett started off in obedience 40 years ago. And what is obedience? It's 1/3 of IGP dog training, which is formerly known as Schutzhund. And who is the father of Schutzhund? Conrad Most. Conrad Most wrote a book in 1910 called Training Dogs, and it is the very basis of dog training today. Conrad Most trained German Shepherds and only German Shepherds for the war effort, and he trained these dogs by hook or by crook. Conrad Most actually laid out rules for beating these dogs into submission if they got snarky with you. Okay? What are the quadrants of dog training according to Conrad Most? They're primary and secondary inducements, which is the treat in your hand, the thing you're trying to get your dog to do something, and primary and secondary inducive compulsions. These are the things that you use to force the dog to do something. Compulsions. There's a reason why balance training is also known as compulsion-based dog training. And for those that don't realize it, what you're calling positive reinforcement is part and parcel of balance. You cannot pull one quadrant out of a 4-quadrant system that was never designed for behavior and expect it to work. But yet we got people like Susan Garrett and fucking Zach George out there saying the positive reinforcement is all positive. The hell it is. They redefine positive reinforcement and they redefine negative reinforcement, and they're lying to you. As a result, millions of dogs have been killed behaviorally and millions of dog owners' lives have been destroyed, and nobody's taking accountability for it.
Conditioning, you also need to consider the classical conditioning that is happening with the dog.
You know what? She's trying to put the two of them in the same boat. Classical conditioning is not operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is dog training. Dog training creates expectation. The expectation of reward. Guess what? Eventually, if there's no freaking reward, there's no trick. That's the reality. Okay? With operant conditioning itself, real operant conditioning creates anticipation. So when owners are out in the environment with their scared dog, and they're all worked up, the owner's all worked up, they're looking around the environment, oh shit, there's a dog, what do I do? This is operant conditioning, this is anticipation.
Classical conditioning is just that, it's conditioning.
You don't need to condition your dog. That's the whole problem. It's operant conditioning. Here's the situation. Let's look at how Skinner defined operant conditioning, shall we? This is a quote from B.F. Skinner. This is the man that Susan Garrett blames for the quarters of dog training and operant conditioning. It is not a method of behavioral modification using reward and punishment. How does Skinner himself define operant conditioning? Here's a quote from his book about behaviorism in 1973. A very different process to which a person comes to deal effectively with new environments. Let me explain that. Every time you meet something new in the environment, it's going to be affecting your operant conditioning. Everything you meet is either going to be a positive consequence or negative consequence. If it's a positive consequence, you're going to want to do it again, and if it's or you throw it in the not a big deal bucket. If you meet something that you're not sure of, it's positive consequence. You turn around, you make it not a big deal through rationalization. Okay? And you put it in the not a big deal bucket. Then you become socialized to it. If it's of negative consequence, you're going to run away from it or move away from it. That is now your operant conditioning. So if you meet that thing again, okay, if it was a positive consequence before, it's going to be a positive consequence now. If it was a negative consequence before, next time you meet it, you're going to run away from it again. So as an example, if you give a child a bowl of ice cream for the first time in their life and they love it, it becomes a positive consequence. Here's the flip side of things. If that same child turns around and reaches out and touches a hot stove, the negative consequence of a burn immediately becomes a negative reinforcement that shapes the child's operant conditioning to avoid the hot stove in the future. Here's the problem. It's the environment that deals out the positive and negative consequences for the animal. Okay? Here's the problem. Susan Garrett wants the human being to stand between the dog and the environment and be the dealer out of reward and punishment. That's not the way it works, and we wonder why we got so many problem dogs today. You're creating this tiny world of operant conditioning for your dog to, this tiny world of reward and punishment for your dog to operantly condition itself to. And if you did that to a human child, it would be classified as fucking abuse.
Remember we spoke about it?
You can't pair operant conditioning with classical conditioning. That's the reality. They are completely separate animals, but these are the lies that are killing dogs and destroying dog owners' lives. It needs to stop.
In many episodes, the bell comes first and then the food.
The bell, right there, that's your clicker. It's an indication that reward is coming. You're turning behaviors into fucking tricks is what you're doing. And again, like I said in the last video, with the clicker, if dog trainers were honest with dog owners and told them exactly what it does, it turns behaviors into tricks, they would tell you to shove that clicker up your ass.
So you are conditioning an emotional state every time you train a dog. And
no, you're not. The emotion is a result of something in the environment. You're not training emotions. That's the whole problem. You have an emotion, you have a behavioral response to it. You have a default set of behaviors. If a person is happy, you're going to have a default set of behaviors as a result of being happy. Disgust is another emotion. If you get disgusted, you're going to have another default set of behaviors as a result of it. If you're afraid, your fight and flight is your default. That's the reality. You cannot modify that behavior as a direct result of a cause, but dog trainers don't give a shit about the cause. Dog training itself is a solution without diagnosis. They don't care about the fucking cause.
If when you're training your dog wants to leave work and you kind of bring him back.
I can't listen to this shit anymore. Have a good day.